Hi everybody, it's Carly Jones. Hanging out with friends on a Friday night, eating ice cream, watching movies on a double date, ice skating, late night girl talks are only some of the best ways that I have spent my weekend nights. But how did you spend yours? What did you do with your friends to have a fun time? Did there become a point in the night when you felt that it was wrong to stay out any longer? But how can somebody really judge that? Tony Favaro has proven that about 500 U.S. cities have curfews, including 78 of the 92 cities with a population greater than 180,000 people. Does this statistic surprise you? This statistic shows how serious curfews are. The law and police force finds it important enough to enforce these curfews. That is a very front-forward statistic, leaning towards supporting the curfews. I know that my own town does have a curfew for teenagers under the age of 18, and I can honestly say that people do not follow this curfew, but they should. I have been a teenager myself, and I have not had a curfew. Although I personally did not have one, I kind of did in my own way. My parents never found it important to give myself a curfew because everybody else had one, which caused me to basically have one. There was no way I would want to stay out in town alone until at least 2 in the morning. I have been in that position and realized that having a curfew is important. Today I want to talk about how curfews should be enforced. Curfews have become something that many children fight their parents on. Something that teenagers struggle with is social acceptance. When teenagers are late, they make excuses. The party ran late, my phone died, I didn't realize it was that late, I'm sorry. And so on and so forth. When these excuses come, parents need to stick with the curfew. If not, the teenagers will become relaxed and get used to it. They do not get the point and want to stay out as long as possible. But what are the differences of having a curfew and not having a curfew? I want to talk about my first 3 main points. My first one is crime and safety reasons. My second is parental concern. And my third is setting rules and expectations for the teenagers to learn and follow. First of all, crime and safety reasons. Youth Today, a newspaper for youth, tells that some studies have been conducted showing a reduction in crime when teenagers have had a curfew to follow. Kathy Gleason has explained that parents and law officials have added curfews to keep teenagers away from drinking, drug abuse, and partying, because after hours are when those things are most prevalent. We all have heard the saying that the Holy Ghost goes to bed at midnight. Although this is an expression, I do believe that it has truth behind it. Nothing good can happen too late at night. It is shown that nighttime is when bad things mostly occur because of the dark places. Helen Posky quotes, "It's essential that children also understand the most important job their parents hold is safety patrol. Parents really do want the best for their children. They want them to be safe. They absolutely love them." Tony Favaro explains that curfews were aimed almost exclusively at keeping young criminals off the streets. Today, new curfew laws are aiming to solve more complex social situations, such as parents not being able to control their children and the amount of innocent children being affected by the dangers out there in the world at night. He went on to quote that cities with the most effective curfews, such as Minneapolis, Minnesota, do not deliver merely punitive consequences to children, but connect them to counseling, social, and different programs. They offer monitoring and positive adult role models and leadership in schools and neighborhoods. They establish good communications between police, parents, schools, social agencies, and youth. Curfews, in other words, are one part of a comprehensive safety net for children and families. There's a much larger part to having a curfew than one would first think. Cities are using their resources to help the children and help them to understand to ultimately keep them safe. Third, my second concern is parental concern. Kathy Gleason went on to explain this issue. Having a curfew for your teenager shows that you are concerned for them and that you care for them. Parents only do want the best for their children and they want them to be safe. They do not want to stay up worrying if their children are going to be okay or not. Yes, there is texting, but sometimes teenagers do not answer their phones or choose to ignore it completely, which is basically defeating the point of the cell phone. Catherine Hatter explains that teenagers need 9.5 hours of sleep to get a full night's rest. If one does not have a curfew to follow, it is less likely for that teenager to get a full night's rest. This will result in a long and hard day at school or work, which will affect test scores and the ability to comprehend the material. I remember a couple of times staying up late when I was in high school, and I would wake up in the morning and I found it really hard to wake up just snoozing my alarms. I realized that I would rather have the sleep so I could perform better at school. The third example is sets rules and expectations for the teenagers to learn and follow. Kathy Gleason quoted in her article that while many new parents feel the constant crying and chronic sleeplessness of having a newborn must be the most difficult stage of parenting, raising a teenager can also be quite difficult. While teenagers are more independent and can listen to reason, parents of teens know all too well that their children may ignore reason and any rules that go with it, such as curfews. Often teenagers will fight against their parents. They don't want to seem uncool in front of their friends and have to have a curfew, but in reality, everybody really should have one. Curfews allow a chance for teenagers to prove to their parents that they are responsible and trustworthy by following special expectations and guidelines set by their parents. It is expressed that if a teenager follows a very early curfew well, that it is a great thing to push that curfew back, kind of like a reward. This proves that their parents are proud of them and that they recognize what they are doing and that they're doing it well. This gives the teenager satisfaction, and because of this, parents can better trust the children, which builds up to a better relationship all around. Gleason expressed, talk to your teen about her own curfew and let her have a bit of input, if possible. She will be more willing to follow her rules if she feels like her voice has been heard. Teenagers want attention and satisfaction. They want to impress their parents but do not want to feel like they are being bossed around. There is a very fine line between being a pushy parent and one who works well with the teenagers and understands their side of the situation. Teenagers want to rebel and prove that they are independent. A great way to show that they are grown up and mature is to follow certain curfew rules. With having curfews, it will only help for teenagers and parents to have a more trusting relationship if those curfews are followed. Curfews have been brought to the community to protect. A rule is not there as a guideline or a suggestion. Rules are there for us to follow and to benefit ourselves. Rules are not set to hurt oneself. When teenagers follow rules, they will not have to worry about the harsh realities of the world at night. Nothing good comes from the dark, empty spaces. Following curfews will help to keep teenagers out of trouble, help parents to get a better sleep at night, and allows the teenagers to be recognized in a good and positive way. If they are not heard, this could result in a behavioral issue. Curfews should be enforced, but the parents need to work with the children so they do not push the children away, which would result in harsh feelings and rebellion. As I have tried to persuade you that curfews are beneficial, I hope that these points have proven this to be true. I have shown that the curfews are not just set to be mean, but they are really there to help the children to benefit oneself. Following curfews will benefit oneself for many years to come.